Well, we're getting closer and closer to the holidays, but we're also going to talk about the latest AEW Dynamite and NXT shows that happened this past week. We're going to talk about it and review it on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, in the National Wrestling Alliance, many promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod. Now, since we just had another Wednesday Night War for all of you guys, let's just talk about the ratings and the views that happened for this past Wednesday. As you know, last week, AEW Dynamite went to the highest level they ever been in almost a year, almost reaching the 1 million mark. But however, this week did not happen that way. It went down. So basically, AEW Dynamite went down from 995 views all the way to 806,000 views, with the rate of 0.32, which last week was 0.45 in the 1849 demographic. NXT, on the other hand, they did raised up from from last week. They had a 659,000 views. They went up to 766,000 views, and the rate last time was 0.17. This week they went up to two up 0.19. Now, how can that happen? Well, I know some people may or not. There were certain things that they not like, or whatever. They didn't feel like it was a good show or whatever. But I mean, they were both good shows. Not gonna lie about that. So that's always been the case when it comes to the ratings. But here's the thing: even though AEW had a dip of their viewerships, but however, they still continue to have good ratings and good viewership, no matter what it is. But they continue to put out a good show regardless of everything and all this and that. But right now, let's go and review AEW Dynamite right now. All right, so AEW Dynamite started out with an interesting six-man tag team match. We have in one corner Hangman Adam Page teaming with Dark Order members John Silver and Alex Reynolds, but they were dubbed as the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy. So yeah, but the way the interesting comes out, here comes a Hangman as normally as he comes out with a bandana covering his face. Here comes Reynolds and Silver with hats and covering their faces. It kind of messed up the mood a little bit for Hangman. Like, what are you guys doing? This is like my segment. But they're trying everything in their power to convince him to join the Dark Order. That they already extended an invitation to him, but it's still unclear whether if he's going to join or not, which they've been trying to do that the entire time. But their opponent is none other than Matt Hardy and Private Party. It was a good match to see how, even though in the storyline we're seeing Hangman, he is not officially with the Dark Order, but he works great. But however, in a moment near the end of the match, you see Matt Hardy tag Mark Quinn, and he takes up the victory when he took out Alex Reynolds. So that's kind of like a bit of a different story they're setting up. But the whole thing with Silver and Hangman, that Silver, Hangman, and Reynolds, that's another story. But it was a good match. The next thing we see is the Inner Circle on in the meeting, having an interview and all this. It seems like there is a bit of a tension with, not bad, but more like who's stealing the spotlight between Jericho and and MJF, as you know, their Broadway show they did not too long ago, and that dinner, whatever they call it. So it was pretty much like ego in the way. But we'll see how that goes. Now, the next thing we see is a little interesting video that was made from both Cody and Brandy. It was revealed that they're expecting their first child, and it was a very surprising thing to hear. I don't think none of us would have imagined that. We all can say congratulations to him and, of course, to Brandy. But when Cody comes out, you can see the baby bump right there, and it's a great moment. However, now Cody was scheduled already in the match against Angelico. Now, it was a good match, but to be honest with you, there is no build up to the story between both Rhodes and Angelico at that whatsoever. But it was a good match, and Cody took the victory on this one. But however, post match, here comes Taz congratulating him, saying that Ricky Starks and Brian Cage were congratulating them when they made Cody and Darby Allin their daddies from the match they had a few weeks ago. Now, however, Taz, who still has issues with Cody, tried to send him on his maternity leave, like beating him up, making sure he never comes back. But however, they got stopped by none other than it's Sting. Yep, Sting once again gets involved in Taz's business. Now, I can predict what's going to happen, but that's going to be in the final thoughts. Now, throughout the entire time, I did notice Sting did lock eyes with Darby Allin. Now, I don't know what's that all about, but it seems like it's getting gooder and gooder. The more we're still trying to speculate what is going on. What is Sting's purpose being in AEW? Well, we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks, but I will talk about that in the final thoughts. Now, as you know, there's been mounts of tensions between both the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy against Kip Sabian and Miro, due to the fact that Miro hasn't forgotten what the Best Friends did by demolishing a video game arcade that Miro gave Kip as a wedding gift. But he said that even though he's planning next week the wedding of Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. But however, in a later interview, it showed that Best Friends are seems like they want to crash the party. You know, I'd like to see this. I like to see how weddings go in this type of thing. But it's kind of funny. Now, as you know, Eddie Kingston, he's a great guy in the mic. We've seen him how he does amazing promos the way. He had this thing where he addresses his enemies. He's talking about guys like Pac, Lance Archer. He did state that Pac is not coming back. But however, the more he was talking all this, here comes Lance Archer for a little payback. All of a sudden, he's joined by the other members of the family, the Butcher and the Blade. But here comes Death Triangle, getting a piece of Eddie Kingston and the family. But however, there nearly was tensions between both Pac and Archer. The reason is, Pac super kicked him kind of broad kick him or something. And Archer was about to either chokeslam him or whatever he was going to do. But Lance Archer understands that he's pissed off. But however, he had everything under control. So basically, they have to put their differences aside sooner or later. But their main focus is getting their hands on Eddie Kingston, both men. So we'll see where they're going to go with this. This is going to be a very interesting story, how they're going to develop. Now, Dustin Rhodes, well, as you know, he had a match against 10 a week ago. And, of course, Evil Uno extended him into a vacation, saying that he's more like the family don't appreciate him. He's referring to the Nightmare family, his brother Cody and all that. But Dustin, he doesn't appreciate what they're saying. He decides to issue a challenge next week against none other than Evil Uno. So, that's a very interesting thing to see. Evil Uno versus Dustin Rhodes. That I gotta see myself. Now, the next match we have was originally supposed to be a 14-man tag team match between all Inner Circle members But apparently, it just revealed that Wardlow was unable due to the urgent family matter from what they're saying, and they pulled out from the opponent team. It was in the opponent's side. It was the Best Friends, along with Top Flight and the Varsity Blondes, and Brandon Cutler. But however, Brandon Cutler was pulled out as well. And as for you probably say, what about Orange Cassidy? Well, he was there sitting in the commentary, just shutting up, just being all relaxed and cool, like not doing a thing. That's what he was doing. But the match was pretty interesting because it was like you don't know what to expect. It was good, but however, it was MJF as always taking the victory. So basically, the Inner Circle are somewhat strong still as always, even despite the fact that there had been mounting tensions with MJF joining. But we'll see where they're gonna go with that in the near future, down the line. But however, at the end of the match, Top Flight seems like they decided to send a message to Jericho and Hagar, and they issued a challenge on a later interview where they're saying they want to face them next week. Now, that is something I would like to see. Now, you look at this like you're saying, why would Jericho and Hagar actually want to give these guys? Let's break this down. Jericho and Hagar can put these two guys over. It's not the first time that Jericho has done that, like you've seen Pineapple Pete and Orange Cassidy. But are Top Flight going to be the winning team? No. And there's a reason to that, you know what I mean? So that's always been the case in every story we see. Now, we had an interesting interview with none other than the former NWA Women's World Champion, Thunder Rosa, who still hasn't forgotten what Britt Baker did. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm referring to, a couple weeks ago, Thunder Rosa lost the NWA Women's Championship to Serena Deeb, and she issued a rematch for the title. However, on Twitter, she was being heckled by none other than the so-called role model, telling her that she didn't belong in AEW because she thinks she runs the division. But come on, Thunder Rosa, she's known as La Mera Mera. That means you don't disrespect someone like her, and costing her the chance to regain her title. So it appears that now this rivalry between both Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker is going to go high. While she was conducting an interview with Alex Marvez, Rebel shows up, distracting her, while Britt Baker attacked her and they pour water in her face to remove the makeup that covers half of her face. So, looks like there's going to be another rivalry, but the real question is, if I was Thunder Rosa, I would do something about Rebel because she's annoying. Because she will do whatever it takes to ensure Britt Baker wins the match. Now, next match, this one was set up a week ago. We had SCU, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian facing the Acclaim, Anthony Bowen, and Max Caster. As you know, the Acclaim were nearly trying to jump the Bucks after beating Hybrid 2 in their match. But however, they were saved by SCU. But the best part before the match started is Frankie Kazarian dissed Max Caster, and he did not like it whatsoever. It was a good match to show a bit of the old and the younger facing off. But however, the Acclaim, who are a brand new tag team, I like how they're saying that they are now rising to the ranks. But however, Max Caster used the boombox, whacking Daniels right in the face with it, allowing themselves to win. But however, in post-match, they demanded they get a shot of the AEW World Tag Team titles, which is going to take place next week. The Bucks, well, the Bucks, they don't back down from a challenge. Why not? But however, the real question is, will they lose those titles? I'll probably talk about that in the final thoughts. Now, the next thing we have is a women's tag team match. We have Ivelisse and Diamante versus Serena Deeb and Big Swole. This match was set about a week ago due to the fact what happened. As you recall, Nyla Rose, Vicky Guerrero, and Jade Cargill attacked Red Velvet, but here comes Swole and Deeb to make the save, but they were ambushed from behind by both Diamante and Ivelisse, and this match was set. It was an unbelievable match. But one thing I did like is the ending, how it ended, where Big Swole put um what's her name, Diamante, in the Texas cloverleaf, and of course there was as for Serena, she's trying to ensure that Evil East does not get in the way. But what Diamante does is so interesting. The more Big Swole was applying pressure into her leg, she flipped off Big Swole, but big mistake. Big Swole applied even more pressure and allowed her to tap. But however, it did allow Swole and Deeb to win the match, but it did not end it there. Here comes the Vicious Vixens once again, setting a statement, but they were saved by none other than Red Velvet and her equalizing chair, whacking Nyla Rose. So it appears this is far from over with these women. We may see another feud coming up on this one. Now, as you know, FTR has made their return since Full Gear. They're not happy with what AEW did, putting out like a Titantron thing with Jurassic Express. They're calling them a sideshow team, while FTR is the true heart and soul of the tag team division within AEW. So basically, they felt like they were being disrespected, knowing the fact that you got these guys who are a bunch of clowns, don't deserve to be recognized. So we're not sure if there will. We do know that next week, Jurassic Express is set to face members of the Dark Order next week. But FTR, that's a different story if they are going to go with a storyline. Now let's get to the main event, which is part of the World Title Eliminator. As you know, Joey Janela was supposed to face Kenny Omega in the tournament, but however, he was pulled due to he was contracted with the COVID-19 through an independent show that he did, but he was replaced by Sonny Kiss. So basically, they were giving Joey another chance, but this match was none other than a no DQ match. But the best part is, Don Callis decides to tell Tony to take a hike, but Tony told him that he can kiss his butt. I thought that was classic, of Tony Schiavone. I will. If you guys don't know what I'm referring to, if you recall back then with at WCW, he and the rest of his co-commentators, they had Bobby Heenan coming out because a week before NWO took over WCW, and he tells him, "Well, you took the sides of the losers." That it was a classic of Tony, but this one is even more classier. So it's the same thing, but the entire time of the match, Don Callis was doing live commentary. Now, if you guys ever attend a wrestling show, you know for a fact, there's the commentary. You can't hear what they're saying. You have to watch TV for that. But Don Callis decided to do commentary. So did Kenny. But the match seems like it was going in the favor of Kenny as always. He put every aspect possible to take him out. So did Joey Janela. But in the end, it was Kenny who won the match. But however, post-match, it appears there's some unfinished business with Kenny and members of Death Triangle. Now, if you guys don't recall, last year, Kenny was in a match in All Out against Pac, and he was supposed to be in a rubber match. Did not happen. But however, Pac decided that he talked to Tony Khan, saying that he will put the title on the line against Death Triangle member Rey Fenix. And he did not like that. I have to say that's going to be interesting. So that'll take place on the 30th of December, I think. Yeah, the 30th of December. On the first week of the Christmas thing. So I'm excited with that. I hope you guys do. So let's move on to NXT. Okay, the first match of NXT was very interesting. We had Kushida teaming up with the former North American champion, Leon Ruff, facing off the so-called new faction known as The Way, consistent of the Garganos, Johnny and his wife Candice LeRae, alongside their newest members, Indy Hartwell and the newest addition, Austin Theory. The match was pretty good in every aspect because they're showing now that the way are now spreading their message, their ideology, that type of thing, as I like to call it. And basically, Austin Theory is now embracing the way, but it did allow him to pick up the victory when he pinned Leon Ruff. It was a good match, and it did show like we may see more of the way in NXT down the line. After the match, we just saw a very unusual person. I'm referring to Dexter Lumis. Now, I don't know what he was doing. He looks like he had like a little pad or something. I don't know what it's going on, but I thought throughout the entire episode was really. So I'll just tell you what was going on. First scene, it was him just with the little pad and the little Stellas. Next thing we see is with him drawing NXT's upcoming show on January 6th, which is called New Year's Evil. So it's like, oh, he drew the logo to NXT New Year's Evil on the January 6th. But however, he actually put a draw himself, declaring himself the host. But the best moment happened is when Wade Barrett said this. He's like, doesn't even talk. Maybe you should go over there. No, I'll just, let the pictures. The pictures are louder than words. I thought that was a great thing to see about Dexter Lumis. Like, it's true. We never heard him talk, but he does speak with his drawings. I wonder what that's going to be like. I hope you guys get to see that. I would love to get your opinions on that. Now, the next match we had, as you know, last week, Tommaso Ciampa was in a match against Cameron Grimes, but Russ Tyler showed up and tried to attack him. Now, Thatcher said he had nothing to do with it. Well, looks like Russ Tyler decided to strike on his own and do it on it. So a match was set between Tommaso Ciampa and Russ Taylor. Now, as you know, there have been more of the dispute between both Ciampa and Thatcher. Thatcher once again decided to watch the show up and close, but however, he got himself kicked in the face by Russ Taylor in an accident. But apparently the ref told him he has to go, so a bunch of referees took him out. But the match seems like it was more like, okay, Russ Taylor is trying to strike out his own. He's no longer under the guidance of Thatcher now since he's been aligned himself with Malcolm Bivens of Bivens Enterprises. So it's still unclear where they're going to go with the idea. But, however, as you know, Tommaso Ciampa won the match. And, of course, once again, once he's leaving, he was confronted by Thatcher, who still wants a piece of him, even after losing to him in War Games. But, however, during a commercial break, you see Malcolm Bivens. He knows that he lost, so he's not like gonna say you're a loser, that type of thing. I think he's trying to tell him that he is a huge star. As you know, he's been collecting wrestlers that would be part of his little caliber of a faction or whatever he's trying to do. As you know, he has those big Hindu guys by his side. We haven't seen those guys in months, but we'll see where they're gonna go. Now, they had a very interesting match for the number one contendership that's going to take place on January 6th for New Year's Evil. This is for the NXT Championship that's currently being held by Finn Balor. The match was set up between both Undisputed Era member Kyle O'Reilly versus Pete Dunne. Now, you're probably saying why they're throwing Kyle O'Reilly in the mix again. Then he had his match against Finn Balor in TakeOver. True. But who can forget? That was a good match. We can all say that's going to be match of the year or something for that. But I would say that's the reason. But before the match even started, here comes Danny Burch and, of course, Oni Lorcan once again trying to antagonize the whole thing. But they forgot they had to deal with Killian Dane and Drake Maverick, who they beat up last week. And then here comes Undisputed Era, both Strong and Cole. But all of a sudden, we just saw the return of Breezango, who hasn't forgotten what Burch and Lorcan did the last time. Ever since they cheated all the way through to ensure they were facing Undisputed last time. So it looks like we may see a battle of 4 teams, possibly for the NXT Tag Team titles. But we'll talk more about that in some other time. But the match itself was so brutal, you don't know who was going to win, either the Bruiserweight or Kyle O'Reilly. But it's so interesting. I loved it. It was one of the good matches as well to watch. So, but however, who actually did win this match? Well, you'll be surprised. Kyle O'Reilly. Now, you could say this why they're giving him that. Well, I'll give you my thoughts on that soon. So, he goes facing off Finn Balor at New Year's Evil on January 6th. It's already been set and planned. Now, we see an interview with Rhea Ripley, who hasn't forgotten what happened last time. Now, she is familiarized with Toni Storm. She hasn't forgotten about her. As you know, this rivalry between those two has gone back all the way to NXT UK. So that is set for the main event tonight. Now, the next match we had Indy Hartwell versus Shotzi Blackheart. Now, Shotzi has acknowledged, yes, Candice LeRae team won War Games. But however, they're the ones that gave them a beating of a lifetime. So basically, she thinks this thing with Candice LeRae is far from over. So the match seems like it was going great, but however, Indy Hartwell brought that little trophy that Gargano got and whacked her with it, allowing herself to be disqualified and giving the win to Shotzi Blackheart. So, however, this became a 2-on-1 situation with Hartwell and LeRae on Shotzi Blackheart. So they're all happy. They send a message, but they forget one thing. Shotzi Blackheart, she's all business. We have this interesting video that I forgot to mention. Another video that's going on between Boa and Xia Li. Now, we have been seeing these weird videos where they're being trained, brutalized, being tortured of training, or whatever they're doing. You see Xia Li punching Boa or kicking him. I'm like, okay, we get the point. They're being trained. What does it all mean? Are we seeing like some call of a faction or something? I don't know. I mean, they're keeping this one so... I mean, it's interesting, but at the same time, I feel like they need to throw a bone to us, in my opinion. I'll probably explain that one in the final thoughts. I think this is one of those topics we should talk about that. Now, the next match, we have the return of TikTok, Karrion Kross, along with Scarlett, facing off against someone from the Performance Center, Desmond Troy, but match ended with Karrion Kross winning as always, like a very easy match for him to win. But however, it appears Kross still wants a piece of Priest, and it looks like he may get him on New Year's Evil, which it's gonna be fun. So looks like that's gonna happen. Now, the next interview we have is Isaiah Swerve Scott. If you recall, Scott lost in the match against Jake Atlas. He felt like he got lucky, so he asked William Regal for a rematch with Jake Atlas, and he said that this whole thing that it's gonna have the whole thing reversed. That the next time they face, it's gonna be Scott the win. But however, as soon as he left, once again, the interviewer got really headline. As you know, Everrise are trying to say they are the best tag team or whatever, saying that their loss they had didn't count. They're saying they rule. But however, if I were you, I wouldn't say that in front of Imperium or Grizzled Young Veterans, because they have been dominant in their own domain before. Now, we get to the main event with Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley. The match seems like it was amazing. I did like the brutality on this one. Great match. But however, it ended in the favor of Toni Storm thanks to Raquel Gonzalez. Looks like she is striking on her own. I think they're giving her a good push. Like, sooner or later, we may see a moment where she doesn't need Dakota Kai. She's going to either dump her or punch her or whatever the case. But we haven't seen Dakota Kai, not after War Games, because she's probably out on an injury, that sort of thing. So, but this rivalry between Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley is far from over. So I think that's it right now with NXT. So let's just move on with my final thoughts on this one. All right, let's talk about my final thoughts on both shows. They're both were good, but which one had the bigger edge? Like right now, I feel that AEW had the better stories, but NXT had the better matches. That's how I see it. The reason I say that is this: if you pay attention to both shows, NXT can throw in some good matches, but having the story develop, that's a different story. But however, with AEW, they have. Like I mentioned with the Cody and Angelico, there was no story build up between them, but after the match. Now, to jump in the story, Taz has his issues towards Cody, but once again, he was interrupted by Sting. What do I predict? Well, if Sting once again gets in Taz's business, there is a chance Taz is going to declare war against Sting. He probably will get sick and tired of him involving himself in where his nose doesn't belong. As you know, Taz has his issues not only with Cody but with Darby Allin, who is the current TNT champion. So what do I see here? Well, do I see Sting that he could be a somewhat of a mentor to Darby? It's a possibility. But what does Cody play in this? Well, if you know this, Cody is a big fan of Sting. So that is one of those stories I did like. So I don't know what to make of that, but it seems like they're getting into a good story on this. Now, I did talk about the Acclaim issuing a challenge against the Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Now, I do predict in this particular match that's going to happen. The Bucks are going to retain the titles because there's no way they're going to pass the titles to these guys. The Bucks are one of the top stars and they have to remain legit on this one. Now they could try to cheat their way through, but however, I don't see the Acclaim maybe getting the AEW tag team titles sooner, but I do picture the Bucks retaining it. That's my prediction on that. Now, the whole thing with Pac and that I'm seeing is, he's has two things that happen. Pac has his issues with Eddie Kingston, but however, he got involved with Kenny Omega. Now, is it too much? It's possible. Like if you look at Pac and Kenny, they have their issues in the past, but however, with this him setting up a match for Rey Fenix to face Kenny for the title, that's going to be an interesting. But I do predict that Eddie Kingston may get involved in that match. Why? Kingston has his issues with the Death Triangle since they reformed after Pac returned from isolation, from coming overseas after the pandemic. So that's one of the things that I do predict. Kenny might retain the title, but there's those that are putting on social media saying we might see a Bullet Club versus Death Triangle. Well, I wouldn't call it Bullet Club. I'd probably call it something else because Bullet Club is currently run by New Japan Pro Wrestling. They have the rights to the name. So that's the way I see in that. Now let's talk about the match with Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor in the upcoming thing. Why they're throwing this again? Now we can say all we want how much that was a good match. Now you can say this about Kyle O'Reilly, but isn't he a tag team specialist? That is true, but however, he has competed before going to WWE as a singles competitor, he was the Ring of Honor World Champion. He even had rivalries with Adam Cole, who is now his teammate in Undisputed Era. But I'd say they're giving him a good push, not only to be a singles as a tag team competitor, but also as a singles competitor. Like, I think we're getting a shot of what we're seeing, that he has to step up. Like, because there's talk that there is a chance that we may see Undisputed Era split up. I mean, it would be sad, but however, we could see maybe Kyle O'Reilly take over Undisputed Era. That's how I would picture it if that's the case. Because I know that Triple H is protecting Adam Cole. So that's one of the things I do see on this show. So that's pretty much my thoughts. I could say this, like I said before, AEW had the better stories, but however, it's NXT who had the better matches. Despite the fact of the ratings, if that's what you're saying. So, AEW, good stories, NXT, best matches. That's how I see it. So, if you guys have a different opinion, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you. So, I'll see you guys in the next episode that I will cover MLW, NXT UK, 205 Live, and of course, New Japan Strong Detonation. So, I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, mwah, and have a nice day. Bang!